Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Shall we begin the session? Today's topic is the same, that is, quality system in IT, but the chapter number 6, resource management. How to manage the various resources that is available in the, that is available for the, yes, correct. So this is the chapter number 6, resource management. All right. So when we say about the resource management, that is a collection of the related processes that are often, combined together for some aim, for some target. For example, when you say about the financial resources that is used, that is controlled by the finance department, then purchase material, equipment and the supplies that are controlled by the purchasing department, then measuring the equipment maintenance that is controlled by the calibration department, then plant maintenance that is controlled by the maintenance department, staff development that is controlled by the human resources or the personal development. So that means various resources that is used for the various development, that is used for the various terms that is used in this one. So these are the various resources that is used for various department. So this is a division of the various department with the various resources, we can say. So for example, there is the financial resources that is controlled by the finance department, then purchase material, equipment and the supplies that is controlled by the purchasing department, measuring the equipment that is also maintenance that is controlled by the calibration department, plant maintenance, development department, staff development that is controlled by the human resources, then building maintenance that is controlled by the facilities management. And these departments also control the resources but do not manage them. They therefore only perform a few of the tasks that is necessary to manage the resources. And when we collect the human, physical and the financial resources of the organization, they makes an organization or fulfill the targets. And the resource management process has a number of the various stages. So first is the resource planning. So first of all, there is a business management that gives a plan. Plan means idea, we can say. Then it goes to the resource planning, plan out the resources, what are the various resources that is needed. For example, how much material is needed, how much money is needed. So we can say that every planning is must be kept in mind at the starting phase. Then identified needs, what are the various needs, that is a resource acquisition. Then resource deployment, that includes the products, services, personnel in the sense persons. Then next is the order fulfillment. So if it is done, so there is the order fulfillment, that is the serviceable products and the services, competent personals, product services, that is used for resource maintenance. Then resource disposal. So one is a planning, one is acquisition, one is a deployment, one is a maintenance, one is a disposal. Whatever the resource that must be planned. So it is not that only the purchasing department, the sales department has a records, have to make the planned out. No, every resource that is to be planned, then acquired, deployed, maintained, and eventually disposed of. And details of each process will differ depending on the type of the resources that is being managed. And human resources are not disposed of because their employment, they are not disposed of. They are not the material that we can throw. That means personnel we cannot throw, but their employment or the contract that is terminated along with the standard that does not address disposal of the resources, disposal of the services. That means there is no requirement that we can say that this is a resource that is used for the management, that is used for the various processes. So this depends on the type of the resource that is being managed. Human resources are not disposed of, but their employment or the contract terminated, although the standard does not address the disposal of any resources. However, when we say about the location of the clauses, that should be barrier to the imaginations because their location is not governed by the process, their approach by their users' expectations, and whatever the clause is that is related to these processes. Now this is a close alignment with the process model. This is the resource management processes. These are the various types of resources that include the human, personal, physical, finance. And the physical includes a plant, building, equipment, as you know, utilities, support services, based on the devices, then finance, that is how much money is required. Note that there are no clauses that address the resource disposal, and this is probably because the standard only focuses on intended product, where the ISO would address the resource disposal and the unintended product. That means, yeah, correct. Next one is determining the resources. Determining means what are the various resources that is needed to implement and maintain the quality management system, continually improve its effectiveness, and enhance the customer satisfaction by meeting the customer requirements. What is the meaning of this one? That is, what is the meaning of determining the resources? This means identifying the resource needs that is needed to implement the management system that includes human, physical, and the financial resources that is needed by the organization for it to function perfectly. And whatsoever the resources that is needed to maintain the management system are those that are needed to maintain a level of the performance for the effectiveness of the management system. That is, the main target is, yes, the main target is to satisfy the needs of the customer or to achieve the organization target. Now, why it is necessary? Because this requirements responds to the process approach principle, and without adequate resources the management system will not function. And as addressed previously, the management system is no more than a set of the documents. It is a dynamic system and also requires human, physical, and financial resources for it to deliver the required results. It's a dynamic system in the sense that is molded out, and that also requires the human, physical, and the financial resources to deliver the required results. And starve it of resources and the planned results will not be achieved. How it is implemented? This is the common feature of all the organizations that may be for the different titles, determination and control of the resources to meet the customer needs. That is the fundamental requirement and the fundamental to the achievement of all other requirements. And there are two types of resource requirements: those needed to set up and then develop the organization, and those needed to execute the particular contract or the sales. So one is those needed to set up, and then those needed to develop the organization for the quality management to execute a particular contract or the sales. And the former is addressed, and the way we are contracting us, the way we are enhancing, the way we are executing the resources, that also requires a resource planning, resource requirement that is used for the various departments, that covering from 1 to 5 year period. But however, before the managers can prepare the budget, they need to know what requirement they will have to meet. This is very correct. Before we can say start planning, or start executing or start designing, we have to plan out what are the various product requirements that need to be defined, quantity, delivery, and quality that is expressed by various questions. And although the resources are normally configured around the organization department, not in the processes, departmental resources budget that diverts attention away from the process objectives. And the most effective way to determine resources is by the process, not by the department. Because resources are available in the process, not in the department. And the practical way of ensuring that you have adequate resources is to assign cost code to each category of the work and divide them into two categories, that is maintenance and the improvement. And this also includes all the costs associated with maintaining the status under the maintenance, and all the costs that is associated with the change under the improvement. Now there are 4 types of changes that have also affect the resources. One is unplanned loss of capabilities, then increase or reduction in the turnover, then change in the organization objective, or the change in the external standards. Now next is providing the resources. So just read out how to determine the resources. Then next is provide the resources. So read out for 5 minutes. Now the next one is providing the resources, how to provide the resources. So this standard also requires the organization to provide the resources that is needed to implement, maintain the quality management system, continually improve the effectiveness, enhance the customer satisfaction by meeting the demands, by meeting the requirements. So whatever the requirements, whatever the demands, whatever the scenario that is available, so that is used to provide the resources, that is used to maintain the quality, that is used to improve the effectiveness and also enhance the customer satisfaction, customer effectiveness. Now, what does this mean? That means what is the meaning of providing the resources? That means acquiring and deploying the resources that have been identified as the business needs. The acquisition process should deliver the resources in right quantity, whatsoever the right quantity, whatsoever the data that is available, should deliver the resource in the right quantity and the quality when they are needed. The deployment processes should translate or should modify or should transport the resources that is available within the data that is used within the data that is used within the database. So whatsoever the resources, whatsoever the quantity that is available, so that are needed, or that are used with the quality management principles that is used to for the resources. Therefore, if there is any unidentified needs or identified needs for the human resources, they have been provided only when they are in a position ready to assume that the duties competent or ready to take up a position under the supervisions. Likewise, with the equipment, it has been provided only when it is installed, commissioned, and ready to use. And the maintenance process should maintain stock levels, equipment, people, facilities, and so that there is no facility, there is no shortage of the supply of the capable and the suitable physical and the human resources. Now, why is this necessary? What is the main requirement of this fund? Because this leads to the process approach principle. And for the plans to be implemented, resources have been provided, but the process of identify the resources, whatsoever the resources that is identified, that can be relatively non-committal in the sense non-targeted, and that also establishes a need wherever the provisions of the resources requires the action on their acquisition, which depends on prevailing the resources, how to prevail the resources that may lead to all the needs that is satisfied, that has been provided for when ordinary needed. Now, how is this implemented? This is implemented with the acquisition process. We are acquiring the targets, we are acquiring the issues, that is the acquisition. So there's a resource planning, resource review, external, then place the press advert, send out the application forms, screen applications, screen applicants, complete internal transfer application, select the candidate if it is external, yes or no. If it is yes, then engage the personnel. If it is no, then release the candidate. This is the personnel deployment. Then there is an inventory that is not addressed in the ISO 9001, but clearly an adequate supply of the material and the component that is necessary for the organizations to produce the required product and also deliver the required resources or required services. And when we say about the inventory management, that is concerned with maintaining the resources, that is concerned with maintaining the economic order quantities in order that you deliver or that you order neither too much stock or not too little to meet the commitment or whatsoever the commitment that is available. And the stock level is dependent upon what it costs, both in the capital and the space that is used in the. Then competence of the personnel, that is also there is a competence that requires the appropriate knowledge, education, skills, and the experience. And the competence is the ability to demonstrate use of the knowledge, skills, and the behavior to achieve the results required for the job. And it is the ability to perform the whole work role, not just specific tasks, but the ability to meet the standard that apply in the particular jobs, not in the classroom or the examinations, and the ability to perform in real working environment with all the variations, pressures, relationship, and the conflict. And this is also concerned with the outcomes rather than the attribute abilities. Now, why this is necessary? Because this responds to the leadership and the involvement of the people principle. And there is also possession of the qualification, training certificates, and the years of experience that are the adequate proof of the competence. And with the 1994 versions of the ISO 9001, all that we needed was to demonstrate that personnel has qualifications, training, and experience that is required for the work. Not that they are competent to perform, but also the cases in which the staff appraisal system was offered as a proof that staff was suitable for the job. Now, how is this implemented? So, in many organizations, there are positions that people occupy, jobs that carry out the roles and also performs in these positions. And for each of these certain outcomes, there is also requirement or there is also required from the occupants. And for example, a person who occupies the position of a production department or the production manager in a glass factory also performs a role of a manager, therefore needs to be competent in achieving the required results through use of the appropriate physical and the human resources. And this also performs multiple tasks, multiple jobs that depends on the nature of the task. Then training, awareness and the competence. How it is implemented, this required for performing a job is a matter of determining the outcome that is required for the job criteria. Now this is a bar graph that shows that the average daily scores for a patient looking to work after an operation. This also leads to the management or maintaining the training record that is required with the close 40